Greetings, Nightfarers, and welcome to another fantastic episode of Elden Dog's Nightreign edition. I am one of your hosts. You know me as the Iron Menial. I know a little bit more about what's happening than I like to let on, but I play my cards close to the chest. But needless to say, I think you should go try on some new outfits. Mix it up today.
And I am the Executor. I can either showboat or just do a ton of status damage.
Yes. AE, how's it going today?
Well, all right. Today we're going to be talking about just a sample run through Nightreign, hopefully to give these games are, FromSoft in general, lets people fall flat on their faces. They don't give you enough tutorial, they don't give you enough information, and you learn either by hard knocks or better yet by talking to people online or like we're doing right now. And I'm going to try to equip you with enough knowledge to feel more in balance and in control during your runs.
Yes,
expeditions on Nightreign.
I'm glad you're here to guide us along, because before I met you, AE, I was a lost Nightfarer, confused, running around, grabbing items I didn't need, fighting bosses I shouldn't be, and I'm happy to have somebody shepherding some of our listeners as well.
Just today, I played with a bunch of people which I did not agree with their choices. And hopefully we can get more people on the same page, but also understand that if you're not on the same page or if you think you know better than your teammates, that doesn't mean you can abandon them, and it won't succeed if you strike off on your own. So let's get that out of the way. We're going to talk about what you probably should do and in a reasonable order to do it. But again, if you're not with your team, you're probably wrong. So that's a simple rule that as long as you're with your team on these expeditions, you can't be too far off.
Yeah, this is not a horror movie. Do not split up.
Yeah, that's rarely. I'll talk about like one or two situations where it might be correct, but in general, no. So first, even before you begin the expedition, there's the pregame. That's where you should be thinking about the boss weakness and damage type. So for example, we're gonna talk about the three-headed beast, which is the first expedition you will go on, and you cannot do any other expeditions until you beat this first Night Lord. This Night Lord is vulnerable to holy damage, and he does a little bit of fire damage. So if you have relics, look for relics which give you any sort of holy damage to your starting weapon. It could give you Sacred Blade, or it could give you fire resistance. And if you have any of those, throw them on to give yourself a little bit of edge. That's what you should be thinking about with those relics, in addition to any broader strategies with your character.
Yes, so that's a good thing to, like, whenever you get new relics, take a look, see if there's any of those, like, default damage modifiers, because a lot of Night Lords, it'll be very helpful to start off with the damage you need right away.
As far as character selection, for example, you can research these Night Lords online, and you can see that this first Night Lord, more so than most, actually, is resistant to status damage, meaning bleed, frost, poison. That's less effective against him. So if you're maining the Executor, who specializes in status buildup, you may have some thoughts. Now, in general, I don't recommend changing a character that you love to a character you don't really like or are not comfortable with. If you feel like branching off into a second character, like say your main is Executor, and you know that Executor is going to be weaker in this final Night Lord fight because the status damage is less effective, you may consider branching off into another character if there's another one which is tantalizing to you. However, if you only like the Executor, you are not really excited about playing anyone else, do play the Executor and just keep on the lookout for a holy weapon. You are likely to expect to branch away from katanas and towards other dex-based weapons like twin blades. So that should be going through your mind. And when you start the expedition and you have a game found, the first screen is a team character selection screen. Now, again, I don't recommend switching off your favorite or best character, no matter what, essentially. Now, I often will see players switch characters in this screen, and that makes me afraid, I would say, because again, I don't want people to be switching off a character they're good to character they're less good to because they think it will improve the party composition. In general, that's not true, I feel. You don't need a tank. You don't necessarily need a caster, although sometimes that's good to defeat gargoyles and things like that. So I don't think you should be changing the character you are based on what other people are playing in general. One exception, if you are a caster, such as a Revenant or a Recluse. Oh, can you hear my cat in the background?
I wish I could hear him more, but kitties are always welcome on the podcast. I got one in my lap right now.
Oh, wow, you have a nice silent one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a very vociferous cat. But so the one exception I would say is that if you are a caster as a Revenant, Duchess, or Recluse, and you are going to be competing over a certain affinity type, then that might give you pause. So the Revenant and the Recluse, or multiple Revenants, can compete over the whole holy damage is what you want against this first boss. The trouble is, in this game, it is very tough in general to find the spells you want, and particularly to find holy damage amongst all others on spells. That's not true of weapons, but on spells, that is true. So if you have multiple Revenants, although they gain advantages by playing together, multiple Revenants, you are gonna likely be struggling to find even just one holy sacred seal. So again, that's a consideration. If you are struggling you might not want to compete over that specific damage type of that affinity, and that may make you back off of playing multiple Revenants or Revenant and Recluse. But again, I don't want you switching to a character you don't like or have no experience in. I'd still rather you play the one you're most experienced in. If you play multiple Recluses, can be a bit different. It's not bad, but the way you absorb your power is going to change. You're going to want to play more of the cocktails, which give everyone infinite power, so you and your other Recluse can just go off, but it will feel different.
Yeah.
Also, what you should know, and something I didn't know for a long time, is you can switch relics in this screen. If for whatever reason you have the wrong relics up, you can press... I forget. I think it's the touchpad on the PlayStation, for instance, which will allow you to check your relic loadout, and you can switch it at this point.
I did not know that.
Yeah, who does, really? Okay, the next part is you're entering the game, and you're flying towards your location on the map. This is your first chance to look at the map. You can begin to think about where you're going to go, such as towards a sacred camp to get an important sacred weapon. Well, at least thinking about where you're heading, or you can head towards a church. That can be on your mind.
Yeah, right when we're loading in, you have already kind of perused the map before I've even had a thought. So when you pull the map up, are you immediately looking for certain map locations so you can see, like, you're looking for a certain, element? Do you just look for boom, 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 boom? Do I see fire?
That is what I did initially, and it's probably what most listeners should do. What I do now is actually look at what relics my compatriots have. That'll give me an idea as how excited they're going to be to look at Everjails, or just give me a general sense of their skill level.
So you'll know if they have an Everjail key right away.
I'll know that. I'll know if they're cheating, for one. I'll know, and we'll talk more about that later if we get to it. I'll know how advanced they are generally as a player. Sometimes I can just see some real harebrained relics. Sometimes I see basic relics, which just mean that you are new to the game, and that's important for me to know. Also, I found that if I start plotting things out at this flight area, and then I pick a target, what will often happen way more than it should is people will then ignore the starter camp and then run towards that target, which is not my intent. So these days, I don't actually ping anything until we've landed, until we've actually completed the starter camp. Again, because I found that if I ping something like a reasonable second target, people will believe that means you should run there first, when that's not really the case. So I let us land in front of the starter camp.
So you do the starter camp, and there's three of you. You're matchmaking. One person, you don't know what they're up to. They choose a spot on the map that you disagree with, and I guess at this point you've looked at their relics, they're a little greener, they probably don't know what they're doing, or maybe they do have an idea and they want to try something over there. Do you ever deviate from, because you say stick together, but sometimes you know better than what they're doing.
Well, yeah, this is the classic tension. So let's say we've just landed. They've picked a jail, and let's say they have an average jail relic. They're level 1. A jail at level 1 is a horrible idea. It's just real bad. So what I will do then is I'll ping the starter camp. And then if they run off towards the jail, I will have completed the starter camp by the time they've gotten there. And then I will ping the level up spot, hoping that they will come back and level up at least. And I will not run off after them at this point. First, I will take my time and loot everything in the starter camp, kill all the enemies and loot everything. And to be clear, the starter camp is always in front of you.
And you know, even if it's items that might not seem spectacular, it's better to have an inventory available. It doesn't hurt to have extra anythings.
Yeah, I should say that when I meant loot, I will click on the glowing dots, and those will load the items. The items will pop into existence, and I'll look at them. I'll pick them up if I think I can use them, and if not, I'll ping them if I think a teammate can use them.
Okay.
I don't suggest just vacuuming everything up. That's probably what you want to do on solo mode. Not very polite when you're with teammates. Now, as I said, don't skip this. People who are kind of new to the game, who listen to one video and think that they should zero in on churches or ever jails, might just rush there without doing the starter camp. And really, the hurrier you go, the behinder you get, don't try to cut corners and don't leave easy experience in behind. So the starter camp is easy. Just clear it out, get level 2. Now, people who are Elden Ring players may have the opposite mindset and get themselves in trouble, because Elden Ring players, even if they're really good, might have in their head that, look, I can beat an Erdtree avatar at level 1. Like they might have done these challenge modes for themselves, and they're like, I can do anything in this game too. I'm super good at this. I'm super good at Elden Ring. I'll be able to do it in every jail at level 1. I'll be able to do anything, and that may be true. But once you interject other players into the mix, it's more chaotic. You have less control over what the boss does, and more importantly, it's going to take you too long. You might be able to beat that Erdtree avatar or even that Blackblade Kindred at level 1, but it's going to take you so long that you're going to end up incredibly damaging your chances at winning, at coming out at this in a successful spot. So again, please do not. Number one, please don't skip the first camp. Now, hopefully we've picked a second target. We'll set the Everjail aside for a moment. These are the first targets that I would recommend. So you've completed your camp. Now is a good time to take your first target. The selection criteria, first of all, proximity and pathing. So whatever is closest to you is going to be a desirable target. Now, you might, if you have multiple choices, pick something on the route towards a desirable location. Those desirable locations could be a camp with an affinity that your boss is weak to, like this holy sacred camp that we're trying to get to, or it could be a church. Now, a church is fundamentally good because it takes no time to complete, and it's going to give you a pretty powerful power-up, this flask. So those are two examples of desirable locations. And we want to pick something which is, I guess you could say an Everjail could be a desirable location, again, depending on your relic loadouts. You want to pick something on the way to those locations, which is going to be easy. And again, whereas Elden Ring players, especially the most experienced ones, might be seeking challenges, that might be what they're primed to do. That's not what we want in this game. In this game, we want easy, consistent ways to build up experience, which aren't going to inject a lot of risk in our run. So one of those, and probably the best example, is a mine. That's the underground cave location. Not a cave, but it is a mine where you'll see miners in there. The bosses are generally easy. You get a good reward, and they can take you somewhere. You can enter one side and exit another and get closer to the destination. This is a really great way to travel, and think about these. The bosses are...
It's always good to get a smithing stone too as well. That's something that is just a good item to have, because if nothing else, you'll be able to level up whatever weapon you're carrying near the end of your run. Unless you're, in a specific shifting earth scenario, it's good to get a smithing stone too.
Yeah, this is especially good for people who want to use their starter weapon throughout. Yep. Again, probably not what the Executor would want to do because that's a bleed weapon, but in some cases they do. Also, it's the fastest way to get a purple weapon. If you upgrade a weapon quickly to purple using these smithing stones, you can have it level 4 or 5, whereas you'd have to wait till level 7 to get other purple weapons. So the bosses here are a pumpkinhead, a troll, or a knight. These are things which are easily defeated with a group of people at level 2. So, and again, this is a good early target. If you do this while the circle is closing, you can often get trapped and killed. This is a way, especially for early players, to die. So do these sooner rather than later. Again, if you do these soonest, they have the most potential upside. The second thing, which might be close to you, is just a church. But again, if you're traveling and skipping other locations on your way to churches, you're kind of misunderstanding the assignment. Like, the assignment is to go towards churches, but not to skip any experience along the way. Another good destination. Another good target is a cathedral. And this is, again, something that you can do at level 2. And there's a few different types of cathedrals. One is unaffiliated, or I guess physical, you could think of them. And these will have a stone golem. These can have a stone golem boss.
Yep.
If it's a stone golem, that means the sacred seals are upstairs. You have to wend your way up into the rafters. That's something you maybe want to do while your other teammates are defeating the stone golem.
Yeah, I did not know that you could tell that the sacred seals would be upstairs if it's a stone golem there. That's interesting. Yeah. I'm never playing a caster, so I know whenever we go those, you're like, all right, I'll be back in a bit.
If you're a Revenant or Recluse, you really cannot afford to miss any opportunities at sacred seals. They are often a little confusing to get, so I'm going to definitely point out where to get them. The second thing of note is the stone sword key. You can find that behind the altar in an ornate chest. Now, if the creatures around here are headless guards, then the key is still behind the altar, but the sacred seals and boss are in a crypt. That's
interesting.
These enemies are a little bit, the headless guards I find a little bit hard for most players to kill. It depends on what your abilities are. The headless guards I might not fight a lot, but if it's just a stone golem and a bunch of demi-humans, I might consider just killing all of them. The strategy of zipping towards a Everjail at level 2, I think, is generally bad. The strategy of, if you can coordinate it, killing as many monsters on the first camp as you can and getting to level 3 or even 4, that's the sort of thing which I think is a stronger play. It's going to save you time in the long run, because then that Everjail or tougher target is going to be much easier. You're not going to die and waste a ton of time. The second type of cathedral you could find is a fire cathedral, in which case the sacred seal and bosses are in the crypt. There's this hole in the ground, not adjacent, but kind of close to the altar, so just jump down there and you'll find both. And the stone sword key is again behind the altar in a ornate chest. Now, there could be a sacred. Now, again, a sacred cathedral is what we want. We're fighting the three-headed beast. We want sacred damage. Unfortunately, this does not mean you're going to find a sacred spell here. Those are just totally random, unfortunately. But you can find sacred weapons. So if this is cathedral is sacred, you'll find the stone sword key in the rafters in an ornate chest. And the sacred seals are to the left of the main altar with the boss. So the altar, there's a bunch of medium-sized bubble throwers around the altar. You won't find anything good behind the altar, but to the left of the altar, you can find a little bench with some sacred seals, which are, again, of critical importance to your casters. Now, the second good choice for level 2 for your first target is a fort. Forts have a lot of important elements to them. Number one, they have a merchant outside. What
are you looking for when you're low levels with a merchant? Is there anything specific you're looking for there?
So, no. When you're level 2, you probably will not interact with the merchant, but later on they could be very important. We'll come back to that. Now, if you did go to the mines right off. And I should mention in mines, if you loot that area, you can find a smithing stone 1. So you might have a smithing stone 1 and 2 relatively early. And if you know you have a good weapon, like your starter weapon, definitely upgrade that up. As I said, you can get a substantial boost. So we have these forts. And there are 2 forts. One is the open fort, where all you have to do is walk up the stairs and the gate is open. Those will either have a knight on the top fort, like Fort Height, or what do they call it? An abductor virgin downstairs. And those abductor virgins can be a little scary for level 2 characters. Approach with caution.
Well, and there's also a lot of other ads too. When you're fighting them, you're getting a lot of just random soldiers and knights down there too. So it can get kind of hairy.
Yeah, you should be cautious about interjecting yourself between those other creatures and the virgin. Wait for the virgin to be staggered or use long-range attacks. Wait for things to resolve. Don't just necessarily rush in. Now, there are some important things to note here. Here, and no matter where you go, this is a good time to loot chests, loot brown chests, basic chests. Until you have an inventory with 6 items with reasonable passives, do continue to loot corpses and just normal chests. Those passives are important, so keep doing that. And again, I suggest killing everything in these forts. The cathedrals, some of them are a little bit tougher, maybe not, but just kill as much in these forts as your team will give you time for. If your team is leaving you behind, you're going to have to follow them. But if you're communicating with your team, just kill everything. Get to level 3 and level 4 if you can. That will make your next step much easier. Now, of note, staves are on the top of the tower. On the top of these forts, there's a little tower area.
Yeah.
You'll get the staves. There's also a map, which is useful to know. The stone sword key will be on the top in an ornate chest. Also, there's a secret ornate chest on a crenulated tower, which you can double jump and then pull yourself up to get a secret chest. These will typically not have a stone sword key, but they could, and they could have some good stuff in them.
Is this also a spot you can get bows?
Not generally. We'll get to that.
Okay.
Second type of fort is a closed, where we'll have a short walkway on one side, and there's no entrance there. And then other side, there'll be a long rampart or bridge, which is dilapidated and broken. And underneath that bridge, nestled against the side of the fort, will be an entrance to the sewer, if you like, to that fort. And then you'll wind your way up and up and around. On the second level, there is an ornate chest past an arched door by some portcullises. So on the second level, there's a basic chest, which you will open if you don't have very much stuff, or there's an ornate chest, which is through an alcove and through a door. You'll probably want to get that ornate chest. It might have a stone sword key. High chance of having a stone sword key. Then you'll go up to the top level, and there could be a stone golem here or a crystallion if this fort is magic affiliated. If it's a crystallion, you're going to have to use a little bit of strategy. Usually that means two-handing your weapon, jump attack, picking strong attack.
More stance breaking, powerful. Try to break through their hard crystal shells. If
you see that this is a crystallion fort, and we'll show you on the map, then you look for a striking item of any kind, even a shield, two-hand that and wallop them with that. That's the way to do it. Spells, backstabs are not very effective. You really have to do these strong attacks, preferably with a striking weapon. This again has a second secret ornate chest. This one's on a broken tower near the crystallion, or near as you're climbing up. These forts have 3 basic brown chests at a time. Again, open all those, loot those, and look through them if you don't have 6 reasonable items, which are giving you passive bonuses. Okay, let's see. Now, another thing of note I haven't mentioned before are ruins, and these will often have affinities too. I would not suggest going towards any of these level 2 unless they're holy and they are albinaric ruins. Much like the base game of Elden Ring, albinarics give you a lot of runes, and they're relatively easy. So if there's a holy ruins, that is a good first target when you're level 2. You'll gain an easy runes. Kill everything there that your team will give you time to do.
You're talking about the roundhead albinarics, right? Not the wolfback archers.
I am indeed. You're right. What generation are those called? Second gen?
Yes.
Albinerics? Yeah, the froggy type of Albinerics at the Holy Ruins. Now, distinguishing lightning and holy, this is a challenge. So lightning has some fizz around the icon, and the holy is one solid sunbeam. Good luck. That's all I'm going to say about that. Those are the good choices. Those would be my first choices. Encampments can be tougher. Now, they look just like a camp on the mini map. These, again, have merchants outside, or they could be inside. Look at where there's a fire burning. If you can see the fire burning, that's where the merchant will be.
Okay, I did not know you could see that on the map.
Oh, well, you can't see it on the map, but you can see it visually.
Oh, you're talking about when you get there. Okay.
Yeah, and also along the same lines, sometimes the site of graces can be hard to see, but if you look up, they will have a golden sunbeam above them. You can sometimes see them through by that. So smoke or the golden sunbeam if there's a site of grace there. Now, encampments are the ones with bow racks, and so these are of a particular interest to Iron Eyes.
Yes.
But these tend to be a little tougher than the first options I mentioned. The fire encampments can have the flame chariots. Those are easy.
You want to find those because those you can one shot.
Yeah, if you double jump on them, you will be able to double. You will be able to. You will be able to one shot them. I don't think this camp is necessarily faster because it takes a little bit of time to get everyone coordinated doing that, but it's not. It won't be faster, but you can at least do it. And the tougher one is when they're red main knights, and one is on top of the tower shooting you with volley of arrows. So go on top of the tower first with hopefully more than one person and take out the red main knight. If you have a sacred seal, all of them, the basic finger seals have repulsion or rejection. You can push that knight off the top. That's the only use of rejection in the game, so try to get that in. Let's see, yeah. Then the second red main knight will be by catapult. These are pretty tough. The unaffiliated can have a lion, which is relatively doable. It can be chaotic because there's a lot of guards around. Unlike the mines or other locations, there's a lot of chaos, a lot of guards. These just
even after you beat the boss,
tougher.
You're gonna run up and try and start choosing whatever items you're getting or using the site of grace, and you'll be getting some soldiers, some enemies you missed coming up and fucking with you.
Yeah, it's, again, generally, these are not my first choices. I do not consider these easier. So hopefully you're level 3 or you're a good team level 2 altogether. Unaffiliated camps could have lions in them. They could have a wolfman with a sword by the catapult, or 3 tough banished knights. And these banished knights, again, these are not the easy banished knights. These are the ones with the capes who just will chain attack you into oblivion. These are tough, and there's a set of 1 and there's a set of 2. Good luck. Again, not my first choice. Better options when you're level 3. Then there could be an electricity camp, which has 3 Limveld knights. Again, they're not in the tower. You don't need to go in the tower if they're electricity Limveld knights. But again, these can be kind of tough and a little bit of a challenge for level 2. Now, another considerations you can go to these earlier. Often they're not near where you start, or it just doesn't work out. But a Sorcerer Rise, in theory, you can definitely go to first. I don't know if I've ever done that in a run for one reason or another, but if it's closest to you, you can just go in there. There's nothing to fight. You do know how to unlock this puzzle. And I suggest people, if you are playing a caster, to do that. Just research online.
Yeah, it's good to know ahead of time. You don't want to be panicking and trying to figure something out.
What I will say here is that inside, there are 3 boxes with Starlight Shards. You'll get 3 to 9 of these Starlight Shards. In general, I find that to be enough to have me set. If I'm playing a caster, Duchess, Revenant, Recluse, I will just get 4 Starlight Shards, and then I'm good for the final Night Lord. Now, if you are not a caster and you have one in your team, you should be considerate and because not only do you get these spells, but these Starlight Shards, again, essential for the final fight. So these Sorcerer Rises are important to your casters. If it's not too far, or if it's a reasonable target, do follow your caster up there. Help them unlock this Sorcerer Rise if you can. Follow them up to the top, and there may be something for you. Like sometimes you'll get a plus maximum stamina or something, or there may be a staff which you can drop for your friend. And again, if you're selecting rewards, you can select a reward and immediately drop it. You don't have to place it. You don't have to cycle it through your inventory. On PlayStation, that's a square button. So if you see a staff on the reward, you can just immediately drop it to the ground. That might be a big help to your caster buddy.
And it's good to know what your buddies are up to, what your teammates might need. That's something that I really appreciate playing with you, because you keep an eye out for your other teammates, and you'll even like ping, like, check this out, be aware you might want this.
There is a big difference between hoarding items that you don't need and giving to the people who can actually use them well. That can be a huge boon to your success or your run. The second thing, then there are a few odd locations. There's a collapsed towers, which have a few frenzied flame villagers around them.
Yeah.
And those will have, they will have one bow rack in them, which is occasionally important to an Iron Eye. But more important is the painter's huts, because those have sacred seals on them. They're typically near sites of grace, occasionally near churches, and they do not appear on the map. But they are of critical importance, because these sacred seals and just spells in general at time of the recording are a little bit hard to get. And again, if we're fighting this three-headed beast, we want this holy damage. You will want to be on the lookout for huts and these sacred seals. I have mentioned it before, but I'm going to reiterate it. It is important to stick together, even if you're picking a suboptimal target. It's still better to be together, going to a suboptimal target, than leaving your team behind to go to the correct, or at least what you think is the correct target.
What do you do if you are matched with two people and they run separate directions?
Your two teammates just run separate directions. Well, pick the one which you think is most correct in terms of your estimation and go there, and then hope the third person will go follow you, and do occasionally ping your targets to encourage them to join you. Now, if you're in the lead and your teammates are lagging behind, you can select what you think is the correct target. And if you think they're going to follow you, but they're just a little bit slower, take that time to kill more monsters and loot more, and point out good items for other players might be interested in picking up. Now, if you're behind, do the opposite. Don't loot as much. Don't kill stray monsters in your way. Your focus is on catching up. Now, let's say you successfully cleared that first target and you've reached level 3. Now, these are your subsequent targets. So this is really like your mindset can then shift at this point.
But also, any of the previous targets, if they're close by and they might have something you want, it's good to keep those in mind as well.
At this point of the game, that is correct. You probably are not going to be running around camps or something. You'll probably run through them. And if they're relatively easy, again, I don't know if depending on what they are, you will still sweep them up, so to speak.
At least just to take a look at what some of those bow racks or seals might be.
If they're important to you. So new targets which become available to you are field bosses. They don't appear on the map until you get to them, but these are the blue dragon faces that appear on the map once you've gotten to them. And if they don't seem too tough, then this is a good thing to do. Sometimes if people are more experienced, they will kind of know where these are, and they'll ping the map at a weird location where there appears to be nothing. And it could be that there's a field boss here, or it could be that there's a remembrance boss, which they need to clear. And it is good to do these as a team at this level. That said, at these same locations, a tough elite boss can appear, and they will be a dragon blue face with a red ring around it. Absolutely do not try to fight these monsters at this level.
Yeah.
Again, this is something like an Erd Tree Avatar. And if you're not sure, then check your map, because once you've engaged these monsters, they will appear on your map and you can see how tough they are. Again, you might be able to defeat the tougher bosses of this level. It will be ruinous to your run if you do, because either it will take so long the fire will catch you, or you just will be underleveled, and you will get items which you can't use at this level. Like, there's no point in defeating these tough bosses. You'll get purple or legendary drops which you can't use yet until level 7 or 10 respectively. So a new site which becomes available to you are these ruins. Now these ruins contain ornate chests beneath illusory floors, and you can find these by the tallest tower. So look in the sky, whichever tower is tallest, crumbling tower that is. At these ruins, follow that down, and there will be a pretty obvious, once you're looking for it, illusory floor nearby. These will have 2 or 3 ornate chests in it, which are something which are worth your time to get. Even if you have 6 good items, you're still worth looking. And sometimes these will have talismans. Now, the magic affiliated camp, unfortunately, not a great place to find staves. These are magic affiliated weapons. So I don't know why you would ever really want to do this, but again, if it's in your way, you could. There will be 2 battle mages here. But again, there's no bosses who are vulnerable to magic damage, and I've never really wanted to go to magic ruins. Sometimes it happens, but it's never exciting. Poison camp often is exciting. There's a lot of bosses there's some bosses who are vulnerable to poison, but it's also exciting another way because they are the toughest camps that you'll reasonably want to go to. So these poison ruins, you will often see people go there and just instantly die. That should be not an unexpected outcome.
I've seen them go bad many times.
Yeah. Now, some of them are easier than others. There can be bats, and if there's bats, they're not as bad, but there can be pages or vulgar militia, and both these are really tough. There's these high pages which just machine gun you with fireballs and kill you instantly. Not only that, if you fight these pages, then these flowers can rain silvery death on you, and those aren't even the bosses. Like if you focus on the boss, then these other things can be killing you. So if you go to these, I do suggest being together. Like, don't underestimate the difficulties of poison camps, but you might want to go there. Another one is the unaffiliated or physical camps, and those will have bosses of burial watchdogs, and they'll have gargoyles running everywhere. In other words, again, I would never want to go to these. Just don't do it. And now, when I say avoid these areas, it could be that all your team have hammers, I guess, or they do magic damage or somehow have a leg up. But a lot of times these gargoyles are not monsters you want to fight. Like, think of the base game. Do you want to be fighting a bunch of gargoyles? Not really. So these unaffiliated ruins, avoid them unless they're really in your line of path, and then maybe you want to do them. But I would never head towards one deliberately. Then the most important thing to talk about really are these Everjails. And if you've done any research online, people will say, oh, the meta is constant Everjails. And you'll get the sense, if the more you research superficially, that you're a bad player if you don't do these Everjails, if you don't have an Everjail relic, or if you're not just doing Everjails constantly, you're somehow doing the game incorrectly. Now, I will tell you that the reality in-game is wildly different from what your expectation might be. At the highest levels of play in this Nightreign, I would estimate about 50% have these Everjail relics. That means 50% aren't on the same page. And if you go into these games with the expectation that everyone is understanding the Everjails are of critical importance, and you would be a fool not to go to every single one. If you haven't listened to this podcast, you might go to an Everjail level 2 or Marika Forbid level 1. Just ruin things, create a huge disconnect between yourself and other people. Get frustrated, leave, and just get reported. So it can get bad real quick. And on top of that, these Everjails are not easy. I would say the minimum is level 3 that I would want to do it comfortably. Again, you can do it earlier if you're a fool, but level 4 would be better. A lot of them are super tough. If you go to these level 2, I would expect at least one person to die and a lot of time to be wasted. Now, you can, if everyone has Everjail relics, in general, they're great. But if you don't have Evergel relics, the rewards are suboptimal. You get one non-rune reward, and the rune rewards have diminishing returns. I've heard people say that you should pick the runes above everything else. That's another thing which just strikes me as wildly wrong. Often on successful runs, you'll be close to level 15, and these runes definitely have diminishing returns. If you have the opportunity to pick something which is useful to your character over runes, then do it at these Evergels. And if you have a relic which gives you a passive bonus to damage, that is good. You will want to do Evergels, but again, modulate your expectations. Don't prioritize them over everything else. And if you know everyone has Evergel relics, you can focus them on more, but don't expect to be clearing 5 or 6 or 7 Evergels in an average run. That's just going to lead to bad runs. Okay, so say we've done things correctly. We've reached level 5. Now we have a new possibility, which is the castle. In most games, this is in the center of the map. And if you're in level 5 and you're together as a team, this becomes a good option. Now, ideally, so if you know you have a ton of time and you're together with a team, or maybe you're not really together as a team, maybe you have another person with you, or you have a lot of time, then the ramparts are a good place to start. If you're approaching the castle from the back, so that'd be the west side.
Yeah.
The ramparts are additionally strong place to prioritize.
And you can get up there a couple different ways too. Like if there was a spirit spring, you might be able to jump up pretty high right away, right?
In general, yeah. So the big thing to know about this castle is there's different types. If there are trolls, it's better to approach them from the west side or from the southwest corner. If you approach through the courtyard, then they all will see you and they'll become aggro for the rest of the run. Whereas if you approach them from the west side, they won't all aggro you and you can potentially kill one to start. So let's say it's the worst case scenario because the trolls are the worst. They are all facing the courtyard. Approach from the west side. If they haven't shouted, if they haven't aggroed yet, you can pick the one off on the start on the north side, north rampart, or the northwest rampart. You'll run in there, jump up to the bridge. You can kill that troll. None of those be aggroed on you. Or you can hit the one on the north side. And if there is a troll there, the gallows on the north rampart will protect you from the other trolls on the south rampart. And hopefully get a guy to split off and engage the one nearby on the northwest corner. And if you can kind of finagle it that way, or if you're approaching from the southwest side, you can get the southwest corner troll without the east troll aggroing you. And all this is try to avoid trolls throwing from across the castle, throwing pots at you. That can get tiresome real fast and waste a lot of time as you just get pummeled by these trolls. A legitimate choice to make if there are trolls and they're already aggroed is just to skip them entirely. It only takes one bad experience with trolls to I think I'm comfortable leaving these trolls behind, just not doing them. And I've been there a lot. In general, you want to clear the castle, but anything else might be better than trolls. Now, let's say you don't have necessarily a lot of time and you're level 5 and your team's all together. Your priority should be to clear the sewer. So jump down in the river and there'll be entrances from the sewer, from this river into the sewer. Don't skip the rune bushes, which are glowing faintly gold. Get those, you get a slight bit of rune bonus, and you'll wind your way into a boss chamber beneath the castle. It's like at the center of the castle, and then you'll glimpse the boss. Now, if this is bell-bearing hunter, immediately run away. You
don't want to fuck with them.
Immediately run away. It doesn't matter if you've beaten this in the base game. The fight is more chaotic if you're in the team. Now, if you're solo, you could maybe do it. It's still probably a bad idea. But if you're just don't do it. And an experienced team will immediately flee Bell-bearing Hunter. Anything else you can probably do at level 5 if you're together. It may be more or less of a challenge, but you can do it. You're highly incentivized to it because you get good rewards, and then you can climb up to the center of the castle and get a talisman. So there's some additional rewards and incentives from doing this. And then you can open the gates and fight with whatever's in the courtyard. If this castle is set to banish knights, not trolls, then there'll be special drops in the courtyard. There'll be a lion, and then the ramparts north, south, and just inside the main door, just south of the main entrance. So there'll be kind of like 2 special rewards. There'll be the lion, and then there'll be an elite knight with a cloak just south of the entrance, and you enter the castle, and on the north and south ramparts. So this is where you want to go. If you're lucky, you'll get Crucible Knights. Now, these are really tough to defeat solo, but as a team, you can kind of smash them down. And the reason why these are especially good to see is because they give you the most experience. And you can get to you can gain incredible amount of levels just by doing this castle.
It's always a good idea to fight the Crucible Knights.
Yeah. And their special drops are from the courtyard and from the kind of bridges approaching the second level of the main keep. So you'll want to hop up where there would be trolls in less fortunate times, hop up on those ramparts leading into the second level of the keep.
And the castle always in the center of the map, always probably the most difficult section. The section you want to make sure you're leveled for out of the whole map if there's no shifting earth. Is that right?
Well, I'm sometimes. So again, level 5 is definitely not super high level. It is something that you want to be level 5 for. Also of note, there are 2 merchants here. And again, this is a good prime place to take your smithing stones and upgrade them before you do the rest of the castle. This is a good time to do it. Now, also, I want to mention there's a merchant town. This may be a little bit hard to distinguish from an encampment, but it is like a township. It looks like a township. This will be its own icon, and somewhere on the map, it may or may not appear on your maps. This is an exciting place because you can buy 2 talismans there. You can buy a Dragon Crest talisman, which gives you good physical defense. If you have 15k runes, do that, and I would save them if you know you're going to be heading this direction. You can also buy the sword talisman, which gives you 10% damage if you are at max health. This is pretty good, particularly for ranged characters. Also, in general, and the merchant towns will sell you more different items and some expensive items. So if you're a caster desperate for holy damage, which is often the case, you could potentially spend 40,000 to buy it here, and it's certainly worth your time to do, worth your runes to do it if you have that option.
Generally, I feel like I don't get my talismans full in my inventory on a regular run. Does that seem to be the case for you too, or am I missing opportunities?
In general, it's rare to get 2 good talismans. So buying a Dragon Crest talisman here is often the correct play. And now, in general, and these merchant towns will also sell you stone sword keys. They'll sell you level 2 smithing stones. And this is when I'm going to mention that the merchants are an important element of the game, because in addition to all that, they are a fail-safe. The maps are random. There may be no holy affinity camps anywhere on the map. If that's the case, get 10,000 runes, it only takes 10,000, and buy a holy affinity weapon at one of these merchants. So they are the fail-safe if your map is bad. That works for melee users. It does not, unfortunately, as the time of the recording, necessarily work for casters. Rarely there will be a $40,000 option at the special town, but in general, you're just out of luck. So melee users, you will always have these merchants, and as a failsafe, you can buy whatever your Night Lord is weak to, and you should. It is worth your time, or worth your time and runes to do so. Now, let's say as day 1 ends, you'll see a spirit tree, once a spirit tree appears, the fires are closing in on that tree. You're running towards, and the day is ending. So we're approaching the end of day 1 at this point in our run through. You can kill mobs and loot nearby the spirit tree. Avoid any challenges which are going to be close to the closing circle. So basically, if you're passing an Everjail and you see the flames are right there, just don't do it. You can open the Everjail, but maybe you shouldn't, because then you players in your team think you want to do it. Again, you're going to lose runs. You're going to be horribly embarrassed and frustrated because you don't do this. But I've done this plenty of times myself, like committed to, because you want to do as much as you can in the time you have. But in general, avoid challenges as the circle is closing. If the circle is going to overtake you or be even close to overtaking you, do not do anything challenging. You can do like the level 2 camps, like the cathedrals or the forts. Those aren't too challenging, but you don't want to do anything challenging as the circle closes. So now it's day 2. Hopefully now you can feel free, unlike the rest of the game, actually the Night Lords, no, not the Night Bosses, I should say, take as long as you want. And there's no time limit for them. Now, day 2 is a little bit different. Rather than, we want to be thinking about our checklist. One thing we need is a weapon or spell for the final boss. If we don't have it, then we're going to want to head towards a target where we have a chance at getting it. The second thing is it upgraded? If it was a blue or even gray weapon, it could have been your starter weapon, we needed to go to a mines to get that upgraded, or a merchant town to buy a smithing stone if that's more convenient. Now, if you are a caster and you have not been to a sorcerer's rise, or if your weapon is not upgraded and it seems like the rest of the teams, you do need these things. This is a time on day 2 where it may be appropriate to split up. And in which case, the other teammates will do something, and you'll just zip into a mines. It will be easy for you at this point, or you'll zip to a sorcerer's rise. Again, hopefully you'll know how to do it. This is something you can do by yourself comfortably. This will slow down your team, but it's still worth your time and the team's time if you do it at this time. Now, another thing that you want to make sure is that you are getting to level 12.
12 is kind of the minimum of what you're aiming for? Yeah,
day 2. Now, if you're not level 12, you want to be prioritizing killing as many monsters as you can, clearing out whole camps if you want to. A lot of travel can slow this down, but if there's crucible knights in the castle or any clearing out the castle, that can help. Another thing you want is a minimum of, I would say, a minimum of 5 flasks. Now, it could be that your map is just bad enough that you're not going to be able to achieve this, but I tend to want 5 flasks, and if I don't have them, I will say I have my weapon, a good weapon. I'm level 12. I'm a reasonable level, but I only have 4 or maybe 3 flasks. I will take a bird at this point. And again, the birds are...
Yeah, the bird seems like something I see you do less often.
Yeah, so you'll see a tree, and you can kind of figure out what direction it's heading based on the swoosh of cloud off that tree. And you can use this to travel short distances fast. You can drop down on top of a castle, or a fort, I should say. Drop down on top of a fort and save some time that way. And this is a time where I might use them just to get to whatever you're missing at this point. In general, especially if you're below level 12, this is going to weaken you. It's going to slow down your progression, and it can hamper the run. But second day, we're staring down the barrel of this Night Lord. We do need to make sure we have certain things, and it can be worth your time to take this fast travel. It is going to potentially waste time, but it's worth your time to get those last churches. Now, this is where I'm going to mention the shifting earth. If there is a shifting earth, and don't worry about that if you haven't encountered it, but that means the map is fundamentally altered and in a big way. For instance, we'll say the crater. I don't know what you get first, but say the crater is smack dab in the north side of your place. On the one hand, you want to complete the shifting earth. In most cases, it will have a larger reward, and there's a greater chance of getting legendary items there, and you do want to complete it. and day 2. Now, depending on what shifting earth it is, you have some time before you have to commit to it. So one mistake I see people do is they think you have to head to the shifting earth immediately day 2. In reality, you have some time. Once the circle starts to close the first time, that's when you should be heading towards the shifting earth. Most of the time. Now, if it's the Shrouded City, it's the Hidden City, I forget what it's called, something. You want to spend basically all of day 2 in.
Because that's a big spot.
It's a big spot. It's so big, actually, there's no castle if that shifting earth is there. You'll often be lower level in general because there's no castle. You want to spend all of day 2 at that location and maybe hit a mines on the way there, but just beeline it towards it. Take all the fast travel you can to get there as quickly as you can. I won't spend a lot of time talking about the different shifting earths in this episode, but just be aware that this is on your checklist, that if you have a shifting earth, in general, you want to complete it with an asterisk, maybe the mountaintop. Maybe the mountaintop you don't want to complete, depending on what your Night Lord is. If we have our 3-headed beast, the mountaintop isn't going to have things that we care a lot about. It still can be fun to walk around, but don't feel like you need to do it. One mistake, going to the shifting earth too early, and if it's not the city, you have some time. You can complete a few things. Once the circle starts closing the first time, that's when you want to head there. Another mistake I've seen people is go to the shifting earth day 1. And some YouTubers will talk about doing this. You can do this for fun, but I think in general, it's the worst play. Some Iron Eyes have forced me to do this, the crater, day 1. And from their perspective, it was great because they were able to get a legendary bow and they were using their starter weapons. From my perspective, it was awful because we were under level the whole time. It was stressful. It was tough. And I had nothing to upgrade. So I had no good spell. I didn't have what I needed in general. And so the crater is exceptional, but one reason people suggest going to these zones early is 1, you can level really fast. I don't think that's true. I don't think you can level faster doing these shifting earths. 2, that you can get legendaries. Every item location in the shifting earths, there's like a 5% chance of getting legendaries. My earlier rule that you don't want to loot items if you have good basic equipment kind of flies out the window. There often is better loot in these shifting earths. But again, what if you do get a legendary day 1, you're not going to be able to use it because you're level 3, 4, 5, or 7, and you can't use it until you're level 10 anyway. So again, I think in general, you can do it for fun, and why not? You can do things day 1 in shifting earths. I don't think it's the correct play. And I don't think you should expect necessarily your team to follow you in there. You can do it as a team, but don't go in with the expectation this is the high level play doing shifting earths day 1. In fact, I think it's the worst play. And you can do it for fun. Now, another thing which becomes available day 2 are these elite field bosses. Unlike the low-level blue field bosses, these will suddenly appear on your map. One's on top of the castle. That is not shown. So let's talk about the castle first of all. The elite field boss, again, not shown on the top of the castle. It's always there. In fact, they're always there on the map to begin with. They're just things you want to avoid day 1. And on the one on the castle, there's a shortcut right by the merchant, which is on the... Oh, is there a third merchant? Yeah, I guess there is a third merchant. You can then hop up onto a little ledge on the wall, fall around, walk, don't run, and you can get to the top. You can also wind your way through the center of the main keep from the second level. I do not do this as often as you might think because it's hard to necessarily see what sort of boss is up there. And once you've spent the time climbing up to the top of the tower, there's a sense of commitment, and the team might be more tempted to fight a boss you don't really want to fight. So these field bosses, unlike the lower level bosses, which you can generally fight if you're together, if you're level 3 up. If you're level 7 or something, there's a lot of these bosses which I think are a bad idea, some of them which I think are a horrible idea. And I'm going to list those which I think in order of nope. So the flying dragon is often a bad idea because he just flies around, wastes everyone's time. If you don't have a way to easily hit his head, he just takes a long time to bring down. You might consider skipping him. The slightly higher on the nope scale is the draconic tree sentinel. Especially if you're level 7 or something, this guy's just going to one-shot you all the time. In general, if you have something else you can do it. Then higher still on the nope scale is the Deathrite bird. This guy, again, will one-shot you. He's vulnerable to holy damage, so if you have that, maybe he's reasonable. But in general, your time would probably be better spent elsewhere. And now, again, as I said, you can be a badass Elden Ring player. You can know that you can defeat these things. But can your teammates dodge all these attacks? And can you defeat it in a reasonable amount of time that is actually not going to be a disadvantage? Higher yet on this nope scale is the bell-bearing hunter. This is what you hopefully skipped in the sewer, and you definitely want to skip if you're below level 12. If you're level 12, you've got everything done on the checklist, you don't have anything else places you need to be, there aren't any other good options, okay, you can try it. It's still probably going to be painful and take a lot of time, and who knows, maybe the fire will come and catch you or you're going to have to run. But this is something you can do. But again, it's not something that you feel like you should do. And anything on this list are enemies that I will probably suggest alternatives to if I can. I'll say, okay, I can see in the distance that this is a bell-bearing hunter. Let's nope out of that. I'll select a different target. And hopefully my team will follow me to a different, better target. If they don't, if 2 of them commit to one of these worst targets, in general, it's best to join them. If it's day 2, it's level 7. Again, some fools will try this day 1 when they're level 5 or even 3 maybe. It's just a horrible idea. I guess maybe it's best to join them even then, or maybe not. You run a different way to try to discourage them from doing this. Either way, your run is probably effed at this point. I should restate that. Your run is rarely over. You can make it worse. You can make it harder on yourself. Your run is rarely so ruined that you should feel like you should leave. Don't do that. But there are better options than your worst options. And then the worst of all option is the Blackblade Kindred. This is the Black Gargoyle. Horrible, 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 horrible. One-shot city. This is the worst boss to fight for most players. Now, if you have a bunch of spellcasters, he's somewhat vulnerable to magic damage and strike damage. If that's what your team has, then maybe you're still probably going to get one shot all the time. But if you can avoid that, you can beat him. In general, don't. It's not worth your time unless the situation is very weird. Now, another thing, I'll take one breath here.
Go for it.
The second thing that people this is often, I shouldn't say the second thing, but yet another thing people will just not know about and do incorrectly are these stormy locations. And these will have a huge storm. When you approach them, the screen will get darker, things will get more ominous. And this storm can be over a fort, for instance, or an encampment. And you can think, okay, maybe this is a little bit tougher. In reality, they're a lot tougher. And I would not recommend doing these day 1 at all. And day 2, maybe, if you're level 10 and you're all together. So you might think, okay, I did a fort at level 2, and I'm level 4 now. So I'm like twice the level as normal. I probably can beat this. They are horrible. Again, maybe you will survive, but at what tragic cost? The stormy locations, they will have invaders. So you will see some relics which say you gain attack power based on number of night invaders you defeat. That's where these are. But the real twist is there can be 1 or 2. And if there are 2, oh boy. And not only that, just the base monsters are like 5 to 7 levels tougher. So the monsters will be thrashing you there too. In general, it's a bad time. I will rarely do these. And unlike the Everjails, people will rarely have these relics. So You can do them if you're together as a team, level 10 plus. Even then, they can be stressful. These Night Invaders are serious business, and they can kind of ambush you because they're a little bit hard to see. They blend in a little bit, and then suddenly you're 1 or 2 players are dead, and you're in for a rough time. And that's even if you're level 10. Like it's real bad. So don't think that these storms mean that, there'll be higher loot rewards. I better go to these. It's something you can do if you have everything else in your day 2 checklist done. Let's see. Now, let's say day 2 is over. Now it's day 3. That's where you're sucked into this spire, which is in the center of the spirit tree. And this is where you should legitimately take a break. And I take a stretch break, use the restroom, because there's no time limit here on this day 3. And this is after you've beaten the day 2 night boss. And you have the option, there's these bubbly things which will suck you up. Before you get sucked into this tower, you have the option to go back into the fire and reclaim any runes that you've not picked up. This is also a time where you can run to a nearby church if you're low on flasks. There's no downside to doing that, except it takes everyone's time. Sites of Grace will reactivate after you've defeated the day 2, the second night boss. So you can run around a little way at time, but after 2 minutes, you will instantly die when you're in the flames.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So there's a limit to what you can do. Everjails will be locked. You will not be able to do any more Everjails. Field bosses will be removed, so you cannot do those. You can do minor camps like ruins if you really want to. Like if you're close to a level, you can do them as a team. What I'll often do is, if I know I'm close to the next level, I will run out into the fire and kill a few monsters and then run back. That's a pretty reasonable thing to do. Now, be considerate of how much time that takes. And this goes 2 ways. If you see one of your compatriots do this, be considerate, just take a break, take a stretch break, let them do their thing for a few minutes. If you're 50,000 runes away from the next level, even if you're lower level, like 10 or 11, things have gone badly, unless you're doing this as a team, don't try to gain 2 levels by yourself, killing monsters in the fire. It's just going to take too long.
Yeah. That's a hairy situation.
It is. Everything's going to be tougher. Now, another thing is, if there's a merchant nearby, you can buy items cheaper, much cheaper from a merchant outside in the fire than you can in the day 3 spire location. So for instance, he'll sell you a turtleneck, a jerky for 6,000 runes in the day 3 location in the spire, and only 1,000 in the fire in the normal map. So it's a big difference, and this is a reasonable thing to do as well. Again, try to be considerate of your compatriots, with one exception. If you haven't done it yet, take this time to look at the relics of your compatriots. And if there's something obviously wrong, obviously weird about them, and they're cheating, this is when you have to take additional action.
How do you know if they're cheating?
The relic will often be wildly weird. Like it will have 3 of the same effect on one relic, like damage up plus, physical damage up plus 2, physical damage up plus 2, physical damage up plus 2. The other day I saw one with 3 Iron Eye abilities on one relic, and most tellingly, it will say like item ability not found, or item ability 5. It would be something weird where it will say Oath of Vengeance 99. That means this cheater has given themselves the Oath of Vengeance legendary ability, and they now have infinite health, stamina, and power. And it basically, don't cheat, first of all. Second of all, if these cheaters definitely should not be playing with others because they're ruining other people's games, the Night Lord will be trivial, and probably all the bosses have been trivial up to that point because this person has been cheating. If you do find a cheater, this is what you should do. You should communicate with the other person on your team, send them a message, and one of you should hang back in this day 3 zone. Do not approach the door. And after 3 minutes, the door, you have the option open the door. never do this unless someone is cheating. If you click open door, it will essentially, the game mechanics will kill everyone, wipe away all their accumulated buffs, such as legendary buffs or special event buffs, and teleport everyone to the door, and then that will start the cutscene, which will bring you the Night Lord. Again, never do this unless you know someone's cheating, because it will wipe out all your team buffs, irritate people. Just be a little more chill about this. But if someone is cheating, then wipe out all their buffs using this method, and then they'll go into the Night Lord. And since they're cheating, you can be assured that they're a terrible player. Do not fight the boss. Do not carry them through the boss. Let the boss kill them, down point on their corpse, and just refuse to participate until they leave. Once they've left, then you've got 2 players, hopefully, and then you can beat the boss. If one person leaves at any point in your run, don't worry about it. It's probably for the best. They're either a terrible player, it could be this cheater, or they got frustrated too easily, or they're just a bad player. You're better off without them. The bosses and everything scale once you drop down to 2 people.
Oh, so if you're with 3 and they go down to 2, just the bosses scale or everything does?
At least, I'm not sure about everything, but at least the bosses. And it's a big deal. I think the bosses take, it could be even double damage. It's a lot. And it will feel sometimes easier, but if someone gets killed, it's riskier. So I think it's pretty fairly balanced for 2 players. Now, if it drops down to 1, then you are in trouble. The game isn't ready to deal with that yet. I hope they do change it by the time you listen to this. If you've dropped down to 1 player, you are sunk. But if you have 2 players, you can actually have a great experience fighting the Night Lord. It will be exciting, but it is definitely achievable, as I said, because the game rebalances. Now, win or lose, get into the Night Lord with its own achievement. Say you're with a bad team, and you can things are going bad. Again, you don't leave. Just getting to the Night Lord is an achievement. Things could have just gone catastrophically. Who knows? Maybe you'll be able to defeat. Maybe you'll scrap it together. You're level 10. You don't have the items you need, but still fight out the Night Lord. Give it your all. And who knows? If you play well, you'll still be able to win. You could be level 12 to 15. You'll hear often people say they're diminishing returns. I would say the returns are not so diminishing as they are in the base Elden Ring game. After 12, you still get 2/3 as much stat bonuses, so it's still quite the advantage gaining levels. The max is 15. I would say gain level 15 above everything else. I would do it even above buying items at the final merchant. I think it's still worth it just getting those final levels. It is an advantage. But say things have gone badly, you're just level 10 or 11. Still fight it out, try to play well, but you do gain more rewards just for reaching that final Night Lord. So, as I said, even if you've had just a terrible run, say some idiot attacked the Bell-Bearing Hunter or the Blackblade Kindred and kind of scuttled the run, or someone was chasing Everjails and scuttled the run, and you just kind of limp your way to the Night Lord, that's still an achievement, and you'll get more rewards for doing it. Again, I would say fight it out, do not leave. But let's say win or lose, the day 3 is over, hopefully you've won. Now you see the final field report, I guess. That's where it shows you the map, shows you what you did, and shows you can see what items you can finagle it so you can see what items your friends had. You can't see what relics they have at this closing screen, but you can also, I think you hit R3 and then you hit the map icon on the PlayStation, or not the map, but the touch icon. You can select their player. You can then friend them if you really enjoyed playing them, or you can hold down the R3 and report them if they're a cheater, or report them if they left.
How often do you run into cheaters?
On PlayStation 3, I've only encountered 1, so rare, I would say. But it is something you want to look out for, and I would always check relics. I often will check relics if the things seem too easy. Like, I'm like, man, we killed that boss so fast. I'll check the relics. as I said, usually no one's cheating. We're just turned out to be working really well together. But if someone is cheating, I would definitely punish that player because they're making the game worse for everyone. I think we've run through our daily run through. At this point, do you have any questions?
Well, this stuff I'm all pretty familiar with, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners they must have picked up quite a bit there. Something that's newer to me is Everdark variants on the Night Lords. Now, those are a newer thing that have been releasing, and I'm still a little unfamiliar with the different like perks and the things you can buy with that.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'd be happy to talk about Everdark Sovereigns a little bit. First and foremost, you may have heard that they give you good rewards, and because of that, you may be tempted to do them early, because I think they are accessible. I don't know. They must be accessible really early because I see players do them which have no business attempting them at all, and who clearly don't know anything and just have the most. And I can tell because the way they play, and they have the most basic relics imaginable, and that tends to waste their time and mine, which is frustrating to me. So I will say, in general, you should not be doing these Everdark Sovereigns probably until you've beaten the rest of the game, meaning that you've beaten at least the last boss, the Night Lord Healstore, and at least the normal version of the boss you're encountering. But it's pretty clear to me that a lot of people don't do that. And again, I would suggest against that. Waste everyone's time. These guys are tough. I think the toughest one they released by far is the Gaping Jaw. Like, you have a basically 0% chance of beating that one in the first try. The fight is very confusing. All these fights are more anime. I would describe it as that way. Like, they take the notch, they dial it up to 11. They reduce the importance of the boss's weakness. So whereas you definitely it's required that you have this boss's weakness, it's less of an advantage in these Everdark. And so it's different. It's neither good nor bad. So we'll take the example of the Gaping Jaw. In the base version of the Gaping Jaw, if you have poison, you can paralyze them with this poison. And in the Everdark version, you can never paralyze them with this poison. It's still good because it does do good damage, but that weakness is kind of softened or blunted. And that's one thing about these Everdarks, which I don't know, maybe you should know. They go start in stage 2, and then they go into stage 3, and the stage 3 is just absolutely bonkers. And you should, as I said, it's more anime style. They'll just be zipping across the map, doing crazy, just absolutely mind-bending moves. Again, not something you should be doing if you're a new player. It's even more likely that you'll die instantly and just everyone have a bad time as a result. Did you have a more specific question?
No, it's just nice to get like a little bit of an overview because that's definitely a more advanced level of the Nightreign experience. I think most people happy to get through the Night Lords just one time, see the ending of the game. So the continuing like the end game content, the stuff that keeps people coming back, that's interesting stuff. Another thing that I was kind of curious about was shifting Earths. And yeah, those are randomly occur at first, correct?
Yeah, that they will be random at first, and you can kind of, even if there's not one for you, one of your teammates might have them. Do you remember what the first one is that you get from being the first boss?
Oh, the crater, I think, is the first one that I remember seeing.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think they're all kind of fun in their different ways. So the crater, the ultimate reward is the legendary weapon, and you get that if you spelunk your way to the base of the crater. So you'll see a church there, but once the circle begins to close for the first time on day 2, that's about when you want to be heading into the crater. It takes about that much time. So again, the circle hasn't fully closed, but just starting to close. Head towards the crater and go to that church, get the flask. Then southeast of that church, there'll be a tree, and that's a good look. Don't take the tree yet, But that's a good place. That's kind of where these broken pillars are heading downwards. Also, there's a shortcut northeast of the church if you're pressed on time, so if the circle is fully closed, you'll want to take that. And that's a very scary jump. Obviously, you don't want to be jumping straight into the center of this lava pool, but it will kind of feel like you're getting close to that. You're trying to descend as far as you can. And again, go southeast of the church if you have time.
Each of the shifting earths have like a designated goal. Like there's a boss that you're trying to get to that will have a unique reward that will be very beneficial to you.
Yeah, it is. So the crater, you're going as far down as you can. Let's see. The second one is the mountaintop, I think. And this is an interesting one because the main reward is only beneficial if you're fighting a dragon. And that could be Caligo, the frost, the mist dragon, who's a later boss. Pretty tough, and I would say he will seem almost impossible unless you have the shifting earth, the mountaintop. So if you have the mountaintop, try to fight Caligo, who's the fog dragon. He's vulnerable to the fire, and the mountaintop will all give you rewards that help you against this frost-breathing dragon. The most important thing to know about the mountaintop, two things, I guess, is that there's a very easy dragon boss who's got a blue face, blue field boss, kind of in the center of the map. He's between the two. As you approach from the south, he'll be between the two peaks. He's kind of in the center. It's a flying dragon. Weirdly easy to beat, and the most important one to beat because he gives you an anti-dragon buff effect. The second thing you should know is then there's a second dragon who looks different, who shrieks, and as he shrieks, you immediately start getting frostbite buildup. This is a entirely different dragon, and you will see his icon on the map with this red elite boss icon. He is incredibly tough, whereas the other dragon, incredibly easy. The second dragon, incredibly tough. Do not fight this dragon. Run past him until you've accumulated enough anti-dragon, anti-frostbite buffs, and you've gotten the gift of the mountaintop. So again, this is really weird, tough for new players to grok. There will be a tough dragon that you have to run past on the mountaintop. And if you don't, he will obliterate you, and it will be discouraging. Yeah. So that's a tough thing. Okay, what's next? The Rotted Woods. They have something similar in that you will continuously get rot buildup until you've gotten the boon of the Rotted Woods. And the boon of the Rotted Woods is like plus 20% health, and you regain health after attacks. So it's really good. To get that, there's a fort where which is protected from the rot in the southeast corner of the map. So you can run there. If you are been watching some videos, you can potentially find the secret before you go there. But this fort often will get a rot weapon at, so it's pretty good. So you will get the rot weapon, which inflicts rot, pretty strong, and you'll find out where the secret of the Rotted Woods is. The secret is a little blooming flower thing up in a tree in one of 3 locations in the woods. Once you know where that is, run to it, then you'll become immune to Scarlet Rot, getting this huge health bonus. And the perk, the additional perk of the Rotted Woods is you get these rot weapons, and there's a bunch of elite field bosses all together. You can kill them, get a bunch of good loot and experience. The Rotted Woods, the Crater, are very powerful. The mountaintop is only powerful if you're fighting a dragon, which is Caligo the Frost Dragon, or the Gaping Jaw is technically a dragon. And if you get that bonus anti-dragon effect, you don't have to clear the whole mountain to get that. In fact, it's super easy to do. If you get that anti-dragon effect, the Gaping Jaw, against the Gaping Jaw, you'll deal more damage, and also you'll stagger him out of munching on someone. The Gaping Jaw will munch someone, possibly one-shotting them, and that grab attack can be almost impossible for new players to dodge. It's just terrifying. But if you have this anti-dragon effect, you can make that grab attack harmless, essentially. So it's a big deal. So the mountaintop, good for the Gaping Jaw, but it's essential for the Caligo, the Frost Dragon. Let's see. Then another shifting earth is the city.
Noclateo, the Shrouded City. This one's very interesting, very big.
It's huge. It's labyrinthian, and this one and the Crater have the epic dungeon feel to them, so they feel really nice for classic Souls players. Unlike most of these other ones, you do need to head there as soon as day 2 starts.
Because it's going to take the whole day.
Yeah, it's really big and complex. Hopefully you'll have someone on your team who knows the way, but in general, your goal should be to kill some of the easy bosses on the way to the final boss if you're below level 10, but maybe even 11. Kill some of the easy bosses on the way to the final boss. But in general, you kind of want to pass through this complicated city to get to the final boss first, because the final boss is at the very corner and is subsumed by the fires of night quickest. And often what will happen is, if you're not managing your time correctly, one of the worst things you can do is fight some of the tough elite bosses outside the city. The Flying Dragon, huge trap. Don't do that. Same thing for, the Carrion Knight, Loretta. Do not fight her on the way to enter the city. Again, it's something you can do, but it's a waste of time. It's a mistake. Instead, head in the city, fight the easy bosses inside on the way to the final boss. Gain a few levels, ideally level 11. This final boss is, the Star Fallen Child. What's his name? But it's the really tough boss.
The Nox Dragonkin Soldier?
No. The final boss is
Natural Born of the Void.
Yeah, the Natural Born of the Void. Very tough. He will definitely one-shot you in various ways. He takes a good 5 minutes to beat. And if you beat him, you'll get a guaranteed legendary. You'll get 1 free revive for everyone in the party, which is very strong. Like all the Shifting Earths, you do want to complete it. It can be tough if you don't manage your time correctly. Once you defeated him, then you should have enough time to defeat multiple other bosses on the way out. And it can be very good. And that Nox Dragonkin Soldier is on the way out. Relatively easy to defeat, relatively high rewards. So in general, the Shifting Earths are huge advantages. Up to 20% bonus damage with, maybe even more than 20% bonus damage if you get the legendary from the Crater. Incredible bonus damage against the final boss if he's a dragon from the mountaintop, and you get frost and damage negation. And all these things are very strong and have nothing to do with Everjails. So if someone says, oh, this is so boring, just an Everjail meta, that's all I ever do, well, maybe you should be doing some Shifting Earths. And certainly don't neglect the Shifting Earths to do Everjails. On average, if it's a Shifting Earth, I will do 1 to 2 Everjails that run. And it could be none. So there is this perception that Everjails are the way, but that's just not how it plays out in reality. It could be that it's a normal run, but just no one has that relic but you, or it could be that there's a Shifting Earth where the best play is to actually ignore most of the Everjails. So the Everjails are fun and add a lot of dimension to the game. The Everjails, I think they're fun. I use those relics, but I don't have the expectation that you're going to be there every time, that we're going to do that stretch every time, because there's these Shifting Earths, which, again, either feel like really cool open world zones or really cool epic dungeons.
Well, AE, the Executor, I feel like I've learned a whole bunch today. Clearly, you are the Master Nightfarer here. I am just happy to be able to join you on some of these expeditions. And if some of our listeners wanted to potentially, you're an author, if they didn't know, if they didn't start at the first episode of this series, if some of our listeners wanted to check out some of your work or reach out to you, how could they do so?
Oh, yeah. My name is A.E. Marling. I just released a book called Neon Riders, which portrays a hopeful version of the future, which I figure is the toughest thing to imagine these days, so I wanted to accept that challenge. So yeah, you can look up Neon Riders, or my name, A.E. Marling, and you can probably find that new novel. So if you're looking for something hopeful and are trying to imagine a way that the world could be not so horrible, that is what I recommend. It's in the genre called solar punk. But anyways, I hope people will need that if they need real-world inspiration. And in Nightreign if they feel lost, and they can come back to the episode a few times, because I don't expect you to have memorized everything I've said here if you are not familiar with it.
There's a lot to it.
Between this and between this and playing it a few times, 3 takeaways: stay together, don't believe that Everjails are the only correct way to play, and 3, I forgot what it is. Don't just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yeah. And that's for everything in life. But what you can do, and you should do, is check out patreon.com/hairofthedogcast. If you in some way wanted to support our show and you wanted to get access to a bunch of bonus episodes of Elden Dogs, of our movie and TV podcast, Popcorn Dogs, of Raw Dogs, which is a podcast that does deep dives into other video games, as well as the Dogcast. Access to tons of bonus content. Check out patreon.com/hairofthedogcast. Special thanks to Patreon executive producers Rykard Kristinik, Malekith the Black Blade, Blaggard Big Brian Ward, Jordan Hoslow, Sorceress of Blood, Festering Fingerprint Phil Wright, Iron Fist Red Bear Just Phil, thank you Tyler, Bell Bearing Hunter Bryant Ross, Crucible Knight Kelly Gutowski, Justin Melliesmer the Impaler, D-Man the Azula Beastman, Lady Freya herself, Spetsnaz the Fell Omen, and Ejot Blade of Mikola. We appreciate your support, and next time on Elden Dogs, on the next Nightreign episode, we'll be discussing the Night Lords. We'll be going... I'll be touching on some of the lore and some of what these Night Lords are, and then AE will be able to greatly describe how to destroy them, because I usually am just happy to be there while he is guiding me through most of the battles. But it'll be fun to discuss all the different Night Lords at length. I'm looking forward to that. The
Night Lords are well done and are a fun part of the game. Anyways, see
big
everyone.
Highlight of the game for sure.
Look forward to next week.
Yeah, and on that note, we will see you all next time here on Elden Dogs. Thanks for listening.